Hi, my name is Marie Walker. I'm an Open Futurist for Raidiam. Raidiam is the trust framework and data sharing ecosystem provider behind open banking in the UK, open insurance and open finance in Brazil, and much, much more. And as an Open Futurist, what I do is I look at what's going on and I think about where we're going, and I introduce people to each other and share progress. And I do that on a daily newsfeed that I publish on LinkedIn. Yeah. So open finance is when it really gets exciting. So we've started with open banking, where we are connecting payments accounts to aggregate a whole view of a person's financial position. When you can bring in insurance and wealth and pensions and investments, then it starts to get really, really interesting. When you add action initiation on top of that, then you can start doing things. And my advice really to everybody in Colombia is to start working out what your strategy is for this, because it is definitely coming, and it's not just restricted to finance. We're seeing already cross-sectorial data ecosystems form, and it's really thinking about what is it that you're trying to provide your customer, whether that customer is a consumer or whether it is a company. Don't think about just providing them with credit or a loan. Think about what they want to do with it. So solution-based products and services. So a loan from a bank is a product, but the person who's receiving that loan might be buying a car or a house. And if you look at the bigger picture, then you've got a real opportunity to engage your clients and create extra value. Banks and fintechs, the relation there is really interesting, and it's changing. So what we're seeing is that a fintech will develop a cool use case. So a cool use case might be a personal financial management app, which gives their customers who've downloaded it from the App Store a view of their entire financial position. Now, what the fintechs have to think about is how long their financial runway is going to be with that cool proposition, because if it's very easy, well, not easy to do, but if it's an obvious use case and it's popular with consumers, then banks might start to do that themselves. So what we're seeing in Europe is banks becoming fintechs, fintechs becoming banks, banks buying fintechs, banks developing fintechs. It's really becoming quite fluid. And I had a conversation the other day with a head of open banking at a very large international bank. And he identified that for the first time, they are not viewing their traditional bank competitors and saying, good, we are doing better than them, we have a better API platform proposition than them. They're looking at some of the larger fintechs and saying, we need to be concerned about them as competitors for the future. They're starting to do more than enable possibilities. They're starting to also offer products and services directly to the consumer or the corporate, and that's where the threat will be in the future. So it's a symbiotic relationship, but it's also a competitive one, and it can come in all different shapes and sizes. Yeah, so investment in open finance has been changing. It has been an extremely popular place for investors to put their money. We've seen massive investments. We're still seeing large fundraisers. But what we're also seeing in the last sort of 6 to 8 months is the investor appetite is slightly slowing down and wanting people to start delivering more value from their propositions, showing more monetization. So my advice to the fintechs is to think, as I said earlier, very clearly about what is it that makes you unique and adds value. Is it something that you are going to be able to continue delivering and building upon, or is it something that's going to become so popular with consumers, for example, that it will commoditize very quickly? So think about what you're adding to it. And a lot of the most interesting ones that we see are getting the most investment are where you blend different data sets in order to create a value proposition for the consumer or the corporate, which bridges different sectors. So for example, there's a travel company called Genera in the US, which is creating a seamless journey using location data from whatever you're doing, from plane, train to taxi and so forth. And that creates efficiencies, cost savings, smooth journey. It's really interesting. On the corporate side, that's where we're seeing most of the banks and the fintechs think that there's going to be very easy, quick value, because small businesses get it. They understand that if you can connect their treasury management system, their accounting system, their bank, their ERP, if you can add in things like smart contracts and payments, then it makes a huge difference. And small businesses have a continual need for working capital. So unlike a consumer who would only need a loan maybe once every 10 years, a small business will need all sorts of different products. So I would say be very careful about what you're looking at, and the investment will follow if you can provide the investors with assurance that you don't just have a proof of concept, you have a rollout schedule, and you know where you're going in terms of optimization of the product value. So my prediction for open finance in the future is that it's going to become part of a much bigger ecosystem. Now, we have to be careful not to get too far ahead of ourselves. Open banking is still very young, open finance is even younger, but we are already seeing some really interesting cross-sectorial ecosystems emerge, and finance is going to be at the core of that. So I would say that you should be aware of collaborating with as many different entities as you possibly can, because it is a collaborative journey. And keep an eye on what is being taken up most quickly by the consumer or by the corporate, because that will steer the direction of your travel. But the end result is going to be the personal data economy. And there are bigger forces also that are guiding us, such as Web 3.0, the different ways in which we're seeing innovative players harness data sharing. So I gave an example on stage earlier of Uber. Uber is a very good business model where you have my data as the traveler, the driver's data, Google Map API, and embedded payments. Now, open transport, of which this could arguably be part, is miles away from happening. But a disruptor came in and just did it. So the predictions for open finance is that this is going to be a very big part of an even bigger ecosystem.